Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarottam pravaram muninam patanjalim pranjalimanatosmi laye sambodhayet chittam vikshiptam shamayet punaha sakashayam vijaniyat samapraptam na chalayet. So in our last class we saw that we all carry a repository of karmas, and Patanjali Maharishi gives it the name Karmashaya. We also defined that vasanas and samskaras can be used interchangeably. The reason why we use the two different words is to distinguish samskara from the ritualistic part. But basically, whether it is the ritual of samskara or the impressions that we go through, both of them will cause traces on the awareness, and therefore the karmashaya will keep growing. So another aspect we saw also was the samskaras have some characteristics, and we identified three characteristics. One is that it has got a velocity, a vega. And secondly, we also saw that the vega can be actually convert itself into physical activity. Then there is bhavana, which are feelings. And we also saw that these vasanas surface, initiate a transaction either in physically or through emotionally, mentally. And then they acquire some more samskara, some more vasana because of these present activities, and go back to the repository, and we called it as sthitistapakatvam. This is the dynamic of how the karmas come in and go out. One more important point that we noted was that all these repositories are not located somewhere else. It's not like the cloud computing where everything is in the cloud, but actually it is in the antakarana within oneself, in the psychological personality of each individual. Therefore, it is distinctly within ourselves. And we carry this from one janma to another janma. So this was all in essence, what we saw. And therefore, what is the vega that it generates is that it will create birth after birth after birth, and therefore, since every birth has to end in death only, death after death after death. So the cycle of janma and then marana becomes inevitable and continues continuously. And we also saw what was the problem with the marana, because every time that this jiva has died, and that death has been with dukkha, and therefore it becomes also a klesha. And so this is why there is clinging to life, that is, at least in this janma let me not die, in this janma let me not die. But unfortunately, the nature of any janma is it has to have jati. It must take birth as a species, and then there must be a longevity. Even if it is 100 years, it is still finite. So ayuhu, and then there must be experiences in this period of ayus, which is called bhoga, and then this cycle happens indefinitely. So the next point is, every time the manifestation of karma takes place, every time it surfaces, either it causes joy or happiness or pain. And happiness was, instead of using the word sukha, we used the word hlada. Very carefully used word by Patanjali Maharishi, because sukha can be physical sukha also. it can be Indriya Sukha. For example, a taste, it is a Indriya Sukha, and as long as the dish is on our tongue, you enjoy the good taste, and as soon as it leaves your tongue, the taste is forgotten, but the experience of the taste remains. And therefore, hlada is a psychological experience of a sukha. And similarly, paritapa or pain is also an experience that is remembered. So the problem of ragadvesha, the problem of sukha dukkha, is it doesn't end at the physical level only. It actually goes into the emotional level, causing hlada, that is pleasure or paritapa or sorrow, and it is also going to go back by adding to this repository of kamashaya, and therefore punya papa cycle will also keep on continuing. So this is the statement of the situation. Right or wrong we will examine. This is the statement of the situation. The next sutra, 214, you please note, is the very heart of Yoga Shastra. Even if we were not to study any other sutra, this is one sutra that is enormously potent. In fact, the entire edifice of Yoga Shastra, Yoga Darshana, is built upon this sutra. Parinama tapa samskara dukkhaihi guna vritti virodhat cha dukkham eva sarvam vivekinaha. Parinama means consequence or outcome. So what did we discover from the karmashaya? Because of the stimulus that is coming from the outside, the karmashaya is mined by ahankara. It will go into the chitta and bring out the particular karma, and then what it will do is it will come back as punya, papa, sukha, dukkha, and then there is a consequence. Every single experience of sukha dukkha has a consequence or an outcome. Then there is also a tapa. A tapa is there is a distress. And this distress also we clarified as the three kinds: adhyatmika, adibhautika and adidaivika. So the parinama, for example, of you are going out into the cold, bitter cold, today or yesterday, is a karma, is an act. So you have gone out. What did that do? It created a tapa. And this tapa, who experienced this tapa? The body experienced the tapa. The cold is adibhautika, relating to the element, bhautika. Then the body is part of the bhautika, so the body experienced cold. But what the karma, what it does is, even though the cold is part of nature and body is also part of nature, the coming to the contact of the cold to the body is going to afflict the mind. What is discrimination? What is viveka? Can we think that there is this cold weather outside and my body, what is the nature of my body? My body feels comfortable within a certain range of temperature and humidity. When it is outside this spectrum of humidity and temperature, my body feels uncomfortable. So to whom does humidity and temperature belong to? It belongs to nature. And this is the nature of the body. But it is causing my mental distress. And a non-discriminating person, that's why the word used is vivekinaha. A non-discriminating person will complain with an emotion, with a bhavodvega, that this experience is unpleasant and creates adhyatmika tapa. That is how adibhautika tapa can translate itself into adhyatmika tapa. That means the bodily experience actually affects the mind and becomes adhyatmika tapa, and this adhyatmika tapa generates another samskara, and that samskara goes back and finds that whenever there is an adibhautika adidaivika tapa, I have got dukkha, therefore as a result I become frustrated. But what does a Viveki do? If you look at our study of the Bhagavad Gita, Shita Ushna, they happen. Agama Payino Nityam Tam Titikshasva Bharata. It keeps happening. It becomes cold, it becomes warm. It's going to happen. So therefore just endure it. If Suhas was not living in Orlando, then I would not have come to Orlando. Think about this. Because I don't want you to second guess my presentation and say that, look, you are telling all these things to us who is suffering all this cold and you are sitting in a warm... Nagendra Garu.
That's I was thinking that what a nice way to pick an example today. But you still have Californians.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the cold has become a leveler because everywhere it is cold now. Even here in the morning it was 32 degrees. It was 32 degrees.
Ashwath Garu, yesterday in Amita's house, the children were playing outside in the snow, making snow angels, no complaint, nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel they are in that state of mind too.
Sure.
If the leaves are falling, they jump in the leaves and have fun with the leaves. No complaints. All this study comes to me when I'm watching the children.
Exactly. It's because for them still that samskara, the ahankara, has not matured enough to connect the physical tapa with the samskara.
Actually, Ashwath, you may remember I'd shown you the video that was taken by the Indian Army on the Himalayas.
Yes.
This yogi, basically just in Kaupina.
Correct.
And barefoot.
Correct.
This is like a high altitude, and all these Indian soldiers are like heavy parkas and snow boots and everything, and he is just in the Kaupina and then dancing around barefoot.
Sure.
So much salting there, dancing, everything.
He is a Vivek. That's where the question is Vivekinaha. In this sutra, when it says Vivekinaha, means a yogi. So therefore, samskara, we discussed samskara, dukkhaihi, that is, as a result of these samskaras, there is a consequential distress. So what happens is, circumstances happen, our mental attitudes are there. Our mental attitudes, what are those mental attitudes? It is guna vritti. Again, see the sutra. Guna vritti virodhacha. There is a chitta vritti. And what is this chitta vritti? This chitta vritti we recognize, if you remember, in the first chapter we recognized as fivefold. These chitta vrittis are there was right knowledge also, pramana. But in dukkha, this right knowledge or pramana is not active. So this chitta vritti is not on the surface. But error, viparyaya is on the surface. Vikalpa, imagination is there. Nidra, of course, is not there. But smriti, memory is there. So just to recall, there are 5 vrittayaha, panchatayaha. There are 5 of them, and those 5 of them are klishtaha. Some are good and some are hard. So the aklishta vrittis or right knowledge or pramana. Klishta vritti is there. Klishta vritti is error, imagination, and memory. These three are now causing. So the key phrase of this sutra is guna vritti virodhacha. Therefore, this also became the foundation of entire Buddhism. In Buddhism also, sarvameva dukkham. Everything ends up in dukkha. We have to very carefully think through this. Is this a pessimistic statement? That everything is dukkha, everything ends up as dukkha. But then here, Bhagavan Patanjali Maharshi says, sarva eva dukkham vivekinaha. Not everything is dukkha for everybody. Only for the discriminating. A very special class of people who have examined the entire creation very carefully and discovered how consequence of every experience is parinama dukkha. In the end, it is going to end up only as in dukkha. Though, as we are going through the experiences of joy and happiness, we think that is going to be permanent. When you are going through difficulty and hardship, we think that is going to be perfect and that is going to remain forever. All those confusions are all caused only for a aviveki. But what does a viveki do? For a viveki, one who is a discrimination, then for him, he will actually think that, yes, I am having a wonderful time now, but let me be alert. That is viveka. It is not that he does not enjoy good times. It is he will not think that these good times will last forever. That is all. If there is no viveka at all, what is the consequence? Even though we are bombarded again and again and again by viveka, there is no realization of this power of dukkha. There is no realization because we are thinking, oh, this is because of Adibhautika problem, because this is of Adi Daivika problem, some fate. It is because somehow these people, Adibhautika includes others, right? It is because of all these other people that I am suffering. So therefore he goes on shifting the understanding to somebody else or something else, does not realize that the power of the dukkha is within oneself. That is aviveka. The power to grieve is within myself. It is not something that is caused by somebody else. And one who is not a viveki will not even think of getting rid of it. In fact, I have to check my facts a little more carefully. I will come back to you next week and talk about that. When the papal ceremony takes place, when a new pope is being sworn in, there used to be a statement where the new initiate pope has to say, this too shall pass. You know, we have heard of that phrase. That is part of the papal ceremony. I'll confirm to you next week what that whole situation is. And that was given up actually. It is no longer used in the in that ceremony. So the question is that there is no realization of the power of the dukkha, and there is no realization that I have to get rid of it. So these are so intricate of the concepts that the only way to understand the depth of this is through an anecdote or a story. So let us take a story and then use that story to understand this particular sutra. I have selected this story from the 9th book, the Navamaskandha of Bhagavata. And the story is that of Yayati. And this is an extraordinary illustration of Guna Vritti Nirodha, Guna Vritti Virodha, that is a conflict of the gunas, sattva, rajas, tamo gunas, and the vritti or the chitta vritti of the cast of characters, which is coming from samskara, and that samskara creating outcomes or parinama. So hold the meaning of this sutra in your mind as we study this story. I think it was probably in the Gita class that I talked about Nahusha. Now I'm losing track of which class I talked about. This
Nahusha. If Nahusha, you spoke last week here.
in our class, yes, Nahusha. So
Nahusha was here.
here, yeah,
we discussed last week.
correct, here. So Nahusha, Nahusha actually had a son, has one of the sons, the second son to be exact. His name was Yayati. So obviously because Nahusha was cursed and then he landed up as the Python, the Ajagara. So again Indra's seat became empty, so Nahusha went. And then he fell from the Devendra's seat. Now Nahusha's seat on the earth became empty. And therefore you have got to find somebody. The elder son of Nahusha actually goes to the forest. He takes Vairagya and Sannyasa. So the second son, Yayati, he actually becomes the king. So the story we are going to look at in the light of this sutra is the story of Yayati. As you know, Shukracharya was the Purohita of the Danava king called Vrishaparva. Vrishaparva's Purohita was Shukracharya. And the Shukracharya had a daughter by name Devayani. And Vrishaparva, the king, had a daughter by name Sharmishta. Gunavritti Virodhacha. What is the role of Shukracharya? What should be his guna? He is the Purohita and therefore he should be a Viveki. Because that is what we expect of a Purohita, to be a discriminating person. But he had one weakness. The weakness was his attachment to his daughter Devayani was so exclusive that he would do anything for his daughter. So the guna of a Purohita, which is Sattva guna, was in conflict with the Chitta vritti of Shukracharya, which is attachment, raga, towards his daughter. Now this gunavritti virodha caused a series of problems, parinama tapaha. Let us see how this happens. Sharmishta, the princess, a Kshatriya. Devayani, Purohita's daughter, Brahmana. That also is a significant fact of this story. Sharmishta and Devayani were very close friends, very good friends. And Devayani is extremely petulant and impetuous. Whatever she wanted, she wanted to get it. Once she puts her mind to it, that's it, no matter what happens. And then she abuses the rank and the power of her father to get whatever she wants. So in one of the classes we have seen, I think in our class, we have seen how Brihaspati, the divine Purohita's son Kacha, comes to Shukracharya to get Sanjivani mantra. And then Kacha comes to Shukracharya for learning Sanjivani mantra. And Brihaspati, that is Kacha's father, had warned him, there is a beautiful daughter, impetuous, beautiful daughter of Shukracharya. Be very careful, have nothing to do with her. Because that whatever relationship if you develop with her is harmful, and secondly it is also going to give parinama tapa. Brihaspati is a Viveki. in the definition of this sutra. Kacha is a Viveki in the definition of this sutra. And therefore he completely spurns all the advances of Devayani, and Devayani does so many things to kill Kacha. Why? Because whenever there is aviveka, gunavritti virodha is there, then the karmashaya from which the ahankara mines the karma instigates the body to do papakarya. So Sharmishta tries to kill Kacha in several ways, and finally killing Kacha and then making into pieces and then mixing it with alcohol and making her father drink that alcohol mixed with Kacha's body. You can imagine when Dvesha is there, to what extent the Dvesha can go. The politics there was, if her father, Shukracharya, gives a Sanjeevani mantra with Kacha who is inside, he might burst open and kill Shukracharya. And therefore, because of the abhinivesha, the clinging to life, she was capitalizing on abhinivesha. Clinging of the life by her father Shukracharya, he would not give the Sanjeevani mantra and simply digest Kacha and finish him off forever like Agastya did for Vatapi. But Shukracharya's weakness was love for his daughter, and that is where it stopped. Similar raga was there for his Shishya also. So therefore Kacha takes the initiative and then he conveys telepathically to Shukracharya, you revive me, I am going to revive you with the Sanjeevani mantra. Give me Sanjeevani mantra. And you know the story, he gives the Sanjeevani mantra and then he is revived. And Sharmishta's anger, the Dvesha, has not abated. Frustrated that she cannot do anything, what she does is she curses Kacha and says that whenever you utter the Sanjeevani mantra, may it not become effective. The whole project is collapsed. But Kacha is a Viveki. Again, we must loop back constantly to the sutra. Kacha is a Viveki. So instead of getting frustrated, gunavritti virodha cha, instead of becoming dukkha, what he did was he simply taught that mantra to somebody else. That was his generosity, because he is a Viveki. And the Deva Karya continued. So let's come back to Devayani now and Shukra. So this Devayani also got a curse from Kacha. So what is your arrogance, Devayani? Her arrogance is in two ways. One is that she is the daughter of Shukracharya and she has got Shapa Anugraha Shakti. That is, I can curse, I can bless. And that I have got because I am a Brahmana. These are the two aspects of arrogance that you have. And Kacha curses Devayani that she will never marry a Brahmana. So since in the caste structure Brahmana is the highest, the curse, what does the curse mean? The curse means that she will have to marry somebody outside of this Varna. And in those days and times that was quite terrible. So at that point of time Devayani becomes a little quiet and Devayani and Sharmishta continue to be very good friends. Sharmishta, the kings, the princess, continue to be there. And then, so the vritti of Devayani, which is lust, anger, revenge, all of these things were against the quality of a Brahmana. Totally against the quality. So what was the parinama? The parinama is that from the time she got attracted to Kacha, all through it was only tapa for her. Frustration after frustration after frustration. So the message of this sutra is the vega of gunas and the vega of the clash of the vrittis a viveki should know and arrest. But since our heroine is an aviveki and she has got an aviveki friend, Sharmishta is no less. One day, Sharmishta and Devayani and some of the other friends had gone on a picnic. And in this picnic, they also got into a lake. So they started playing in the lake. Warm summer day, you can imagine. So they actually completely disrobed, and all these girls entered into the lake naked. And while they were reveling, at that point of time, Shiva, Parvati, riding the Nandi, were coming that way. So from a distance, these girls see Shiva, Parvati coming, and because of Parameshwara and Parameshwari are coming, it is not proper to present in such an uncouth fashion. And therefore, they immediately jump out of the lake, they grab whatever clothes that they can get and start wrapping around them. Now, when they came up to the banks, by mistake, the princess Sharmishta took Devayani's saree. See how even fate plays its role. As I had mentioned in another occasion, when I was speaking on the Shiva Aparadha Kshamapana Stotra and the Devi Aparadha Kshamapana Stotra, every vikara that we go through in our life is a warning and an alert that Ishvara gives. You stayed in the womb of the mother, Asti. Why did you come into the womb of the mother? Karma prasangat, adau karma prasangat. Because in the previous janma you have created this karmashaya, so you entered into the womb of your mother. Warning. You took birth, childhood, from the lap of your mother, you jumped and became a toddler, a vikara, a change. Ishvara's warning. Became a youth, warning. Old age, warning. Every death, warning. How many warnings can Ishvara keep on giving? And ask us to think, when are we going to become Vivekis? So therefore, every activity that is going on, guna, vritti virodhacha, we have already seen the guna of Devayani. And what was the stimulus? Sharmishta, a Kshatriya girl, picks up the saree of a Brahmana girl and wears it. And immediately the chitta vritti of Devayani, she will start shouting, saying that, don't you know, this is a sacred cloth of a Brahmin girl and you are wearing this sari. And she goes on ranting. So what is the psychological state of Devayani? It is the guna vritti virodha. And what about Sharmishta? She is a Kshatriya, and Kshatra, valor and fighting, is the intrinsic spirit of a Kshatriya. So she is no less. So obviously the guna vritti of Sharmishta and guna vritti of Devayani, virodhacha, because of the clash, a whole conflagration has taken place. And both of them have no viveka. There's a beautiful subhashita in Sanskrit, in Hitopadesha. Yauvanam dhana sampattihi prabhutvam avivekata ekaikamapyanartham kimu yatra chatushtayam. Yauvanam, youth. Dhana sampattihi, wealth. Prabhutvam, power. Avivekata, viveka, that's our subject. Avivekata, indiscrimination. Even one of them, if we have, it creates a calamity. Ekaikamapi anartham. What about if all the four are in one person? Kimu yatra chatushtayam. Look at our heroine, Sharmishta, and Devayani. All the four are concentrated in them. That is why the clash takes place. Sharmishta now is in anger. And in this anger, what she does? She threw the sari of Devayani and then pushed Devayani naked into a well. Parinama tapaha. That's why you must keep going back to the sutra, and then each nuance of the story you map to the sutra. Parinama tapaha. How did she end up in the well? It is a parinama. Parinama of what? The gunavritti of Sharmishta and gunavritti of Devayani. She ends up in the outcome of landing naked in a well. Now look at how cosmos plays with us. Adi Bhautika, Adi Daivika, especially Adi Daivika plays. Appearance of Shiva Parvati on Nandi, Adi Daivika, coming from divine source. Now another divine source, the king of the nation, Yayati, would have gone for hunting. And then he strays into this area where all this drama was going on, and he wanted to drink water. He goes to the lake and was about to drink water. He hears moaning coming from the well next to the Sarovara. And what is this? I see a girl wailing, crying. So he goes and peeps into the well, and he finds a very beautiful naked woman in the well. And she is the one who was crying. And obviously a very kind-hearted person. And then he bends down and then extends his hand, and says, hey, lady, hold my hand, I will pull you out. And then before that, he takes off his own upper cloth, the Angavastra, gives to her for wrapping herself up, and then holds her hand and pulls him up. Now look at what is the characteristic of Devayani? We have found that she is also aviveki. Key word of this sutra. because she cannot see dukkha as a potential in anything. The immediate gratification of her senses or immediate gratification of what she needs is what she wants. So she holds Yayati's hand and then comes out. Yayati, of course, was a very handsome, excellent person, king. All regal qualities were there. And then she asks her, "Who are you?" He says, "I am Yayati, the king." And then now Devayani says, "I have a curse from Kacha saying that I cannot marry a Brahmana. And you have held my hand. It is equal to Panigrahana. So you marry me." And as far as the king is concerned, there is Anuloma, Viloma, there are so many ways. A king can marry a Brahmana girl. It is allowed in the Dharma Shastra. So he agrees, "Okay, I will marry you." And then you go tell your father, take his permission, I'll come back and marry. And he goes away to the capital. And Devayani, she goes to her father. Her father's Viveka, there is a limit. He is a Viveki until it comes to the affairs of his daughter. For everything else, he is a Viveki. Look at the difference between the Viveka of the Deva Guru Brihaspati and the Rakshasa Guru Shishya. Deva Guru's Viveka extends in proper instruction even to his own son. He instructs Kacha, don't get involved with the Guru's daughter. So no condoning of anything that is aviveka. That is why he is Grave Guru. That is why he is called Brihaspati. That is the Lord of Wisdom. Now we have Shukracharya, whose Viveka stops at the emotion of his daughter. Now Devayani goes. And Devayani goes and then starts crying to her father, "Look, this is what Sharmishta did. She took my sari, wore that, and threw away my sari, did not give it back to me respectfully. And then she pushed me into the well before her telling that I want to marry Yayati." This is what she was telling. This is what Sharmishta has done. And incidentally, Dad, I had the Gandharva Vivaha with Yayati. So give me my hand to him in formal marriage. That before hearing that word, Shukra, again, Gunavritti Virodha cha, his Viveka stopping at the instance of his daughter, gets angry. And then he says, in a country ruled by a Vrishaparva who cannot control his own daughter, it is not worthwhile for me to be here. See where aviveka can extend. For some personal reason that was happening in your family, you get angry with your child or with your wife, do you go and quit your job? Think about it. He says, "I quit." He goes to Vrishaprava and says, "I quit." Look at this. And he does not see the potential of dukkha. Sarvameva dukkham vivekinaha. Please, that's why, if you don't truly go deep into this sutra, it sounds as though the whole thing is a pessimistic philosophy. So now what Shukracharya does is, he will pick up his bags, takes his daughter, goes to Vrishaparva and says, "Your daughter has insulted my daughter." I don't want to be in your service. But there is one problem. For Vrishaparva, the king, in fact, we have a great saying in Kannada, Barudettanadu Bedada Prarabdha. Barudu Yattanadu Bedada Prarabdha. A Prarabdha that we don't require, we don't expect, we don't want, we don't know from where it comes. So the quarrel between these two girls is now shifting to the parents. Gunavritti virodhacha sarvameva dukkham. But for the problem for Vrishaparva is, if Shukracharya leaves the position of Danava Guru, where will he go? He has to look for a better job, right? If at all you are going to change the job, even if you are unemployed for a period of time, you will not accept something that is trivial. You will wait. So the only place he will have to go is to the gods. But Vrishaparva cannot allow Shukracharya to go to the gods, because what happens is he knows Sanjeevani mantra, and therefore it double whammy. So Vrishaparva prostrates before Shukracharya and says, "Sir, please don't leave my place. You have all these trade secrets. Then my whole business will collapse when you take away these secrets." I mean, this is why, especially for physicians, what they do, they say that within the boundary of 50 miles, you cannot practice if you are quitting 50 miles or 100 miles or whatever. Why do they do that? It is because you will take away all their business. So this is what would happen, and therefore, please don't leave. What can I do to make you stay? Ask my daughter what she wants. So what does Devayani want? Devayani says, I want Sharmishta, the princess, to come with me as my servant. So now, what can Vrishaparva do? Vrishaparva says, my daughter is a princess, she is of marriageable age. I don't want to simply send her as a servant of Devayani. Please accept that she marries Yayati. Sharmishta marries Yayati. So the ball is back in the court of Shukracharya. What should I do? Salary was good. Perks was good. And then he was invaluable for the king. And the king is ready to do anything. So he says, okay. And in the meanwhile, of course, Sharmishta also realized that if Shukracharya leaves the Rakshasa court, it will be harmful for everybody, and obviously even for her. See, there is Swartha. If her father becomes weak, then she becomes weak. So she cannot allow her father to become weak. So she accepts on the condition that she also becomes the wife of Yayati. Gunavritti virodhacha. Vrishaparva loves his daughter. Brihaspati loves his daughter. Shukracharya loves his daughter. And then finally a truce occurs, and then Sharmishta and Devayani, I'll reverse the order, Devayani and Sharmishta, both of them marry Yayati. Now, both of them are wives, right? Which means both of them get equal conjugal rights with Yayati. Now, is that acceptable to Devayani? Parinama tapaha. She gets parinama tapa. What is the parinama tapa? My accepting to become the wife of Yayati, and my agreeing for Sharmishta to become the wife of Yayati, I cannot give Sharmishta the same status as me. What is the one important thing of relationship between husband and wife that can be denied to her? Conjugal rights. So she goes to her father Shukracharya and says she should have no physical relationship with Yayati. And Shukracharya says, Astu. He says, yes, strict warning to Yayati, son-in-law. True that you have married Sharmishta, the princess also, but under no circumstance you are to have any physical relationship with the princess. Do you agree? If you don't agree, here I am ready to give you shapa. All these shapa weapons in wrong hands. So the condition was accepted. Devayani gets 2 children. And here Sharmishta continues to pine for her husband. And one fateful night, Sharmishta succeeds in seducing her husband. It is not illegal, but problematic. So when this happens, and the tryst continues in secrecy, Sharmishta bears 3 children. It's intriguing how Sharmishta and Yayati could keep these 3 children as a secret. But they do. But how long can you keep the secret? Parinama tapa dukkha. The consequence of this, at some point of time, it has to result in dukkha only. That is the message of the sutra. Then Devayani comes to know that the 3 children that are there are actually the result of her husband and the second wife. Not illegal, but unacceptable. So where do you go, Devayani? Run to dad. Father, this is what he has done. And dad has got so much of love, samskara, tapa, parinama, samskara, tapa. Samskara, what is the samskara of Shukracharya? Samskara is that his love for the daughter. Now he curses Yayati. What made you get attracted and have a relationship with Sharmishta? Your physical ability, right? Your youth, that's what happened. Because you were youthful. That is why this relationship was possible, and therefore I curse you that instantaneously you become an old man. So instantaneously he becomes an old man. Just because the body becomes old, samskara is not old. Because still all the experiences of the body has not been satisfied. And therefore even in the old body there is the same desire for his wives. So he becomes so sad, he falls at the feet of his father-in-law, begs forgiveness. Again, Shukracharya, His love for daughter was there, but not that he was incompassionate. He was not compassionate. He says, okay, but once I have given a shop, I cannot withdraw that. But then I can give you a parihara. The parihara is that if any of your children is ready to exchange their youth with you, then you will become youthful. That son who chooses will become old. Who will agree for that? He calls each one of his 5 sons one by one. But he had one very enlightened son called Puru. And this Puru agrees. Bhagavata has a beautiful conversation. Puru tells his father, this body is your gift. You can take it. Only a Viveki is able to say that. A lot of times people talk about Bhagavata, but they do not talk about these fine nuances that are there in the text. Conversations especially. For example, in the Ajamila episode, the conversation between the Yamadutas and the Vishnudutas, there is such a justification as to why Ajamila should go to heaven. So very important to read, especially Bhagavata Purana, very, very carefully. So Puru says, you can take my youth, because anyway, someday it is going to become old. Who can say this? A Viveki can say this. Because Puru is a Viveki, what is the parinama of having a human body? What is the outcome of having a human body? It is going to become old one day. And one day it is going to, my physical body will become useless as far as physical relationship with my wife is concerned. And therefore, why wait for some other time? I will give it up even right now. This is Viveka and Vairagya. For a Viveki, future dukkha. 50 years later, my body is going to become old, infirm and weak. It is bound to happen. So why should I get clinging to this, my abhinivesha, clinging to this body now? And if my father wants it, he can have my youth. And he exchanges. And Yayati continues to have his happy days. But then, at one point of time, introspection has to come. So he sits in meditation and looks back upon his life. What are all the things happened? Look at my father. My father, because of lust for Shachi, fell down as a sarpa. My wife Sharmishta, for the sake of lust, Devayani, for the sake of Kacha, destroyed so many lives, created so much of angst. She created problem for Vrishaparva. Every single action that my father has done, I have done, my wives have done, everything, because of aviveka, what has happened? It has all ended up only in misery. Sarvameva dukkham vivekinaha. The point that it is also leading us is to say that every decision and every action I am taking today with discrimination has to be examined. And we must develop the discrimination to project this decision, this action, what impact it is going to have in the future. That is why meditation is required. Meditation is not just having some murti, some devata sitting and then breathing and then worshipping and praying. It is a careful examination of the dynamics of life. is Viveka? He recognizes, Yayati recognizes all that I have done so far, even though here and there were flashes of bodily enjoyment, I have actually created only dukkha. I have created dukkha for myself. I have created dukkha for my father-in-law, for two father-in-laws, in fact, for that matter. All of these things. And he finally says, Najatu kamah kamanam upabhogena shamyati havisha krishnavartmeva bhuya eva vijayate. Najatu kamaha kamanam upabhogena shamyati. The desires will never go away by means of enjoying the desires. Every desire which is not backed by Viveka, please don't forget that. Not all desires are bad. Shuddha Kama is also there. Every desire that is not backed up by Viveka, then it will only grow as the fire to which we have poured butter. So what is the message based on all this story? Parinama, Tapa, Samskara, Dukkhaihi, Guna Vritti Virodhacha, Dukkhameva Sarvam Vivekinaha. A discriminating person, unless he meditates upon what is the guna and what is the vritti, how do each guna and each vritti conflict with each other? You have to draw a matrix. There are 3 gunas and there are 5 vrittis. Every guna and every vritti has got to be mapped and see which will cause dukkha, which will not cause dukkha. That is why look at the pravritti of right knowledge. When the right knowledge is there, one right knowledge is there, no guna can influence. Nidra also cannot do anything with the gunas, but Nidra is a temporary state. So we cannot rely on Nidra to neutralize guna. The only way one can neutralize guna, you can't do it with Vikalpa. You cannot do it with Viparyaya. The only way you can do it is with perfect, correct knowledge. Pramana. So when pramana is used, a person becomes viveki. And that is how we can actually bring in and make sure there is no future dukkha. And also we have to realize one more thing. You juxtapose the discriminating viveki with an ordinary person. We don't even want to have an aviveki. See, an aviveki is a definite quality that the person has absolutely a indiscriminate person. Indiscriminate person deliberately. But 90% of the people are not really indiscriminate. They don't want to be indiscriminate, but they don't know how to be discriminative. So for such people, what happens for the Samanya Jana, we'll call them as Samanya Jana, when enjoying pleasures, the potential for dukkha is not seen. They cannot see through that in sukha there is a potential for dukkha. When we are enjoying pleasurable relationships, in all those pleasurable relationships, the parinama is we develop attachment, raga. Isn't it? If we get any obstacle to that enjoyment, what happens? It will become dvesha. A child, our child, will fall in love with a person that we don't approve. For that person, for the child, the person whom the person, that child is interested, has developed raga because of the pleasurable stimulus that they have got. Then because of that, what the parents do? Parents will say, no, this relationship is unacceptable. An obstacle is when it is presented. What does the child do? The child will cling on to the raga more forcefully and actually develop a dvesha towards the obstacle that is coming. Is it not our experience? That is what is going to happen. And if we allow to do that, if we allow that to be transferred to us also, what happens? We will be creating the karmashaya of dvesha. So therefore, raga for yayati on the part of devayani becomes dvesha for sharmishta, or conversely. Raga for daughter devayani, what happened to, what is the karmashaya that Shukracharya created? The responsibility towards the state is ignored. It is not an ordinary position he is having. The state's responsibility, nation's responsibility is ignored. Shukracharya abuses Sharmishta, curses the son-in-law. This is what in the earlier sutra Patanjali Maharshi said, Vidushopi. The power of this flow of karma affects even the learned. Just because somebody is learned, the person need not be a viveki. So Patanjali Maharshi takes it to a next stage and said, develop this viveka. And again the Shastra classifies the nature of the viveka. What was lacking in Yayati? Yayati lacked what is known as Kaya Viveka. Kaya means body. The Viveka of the body and its limitations and its use, all of that he failed. Everyone failed in Chitta Viveka. Chitta Viveka is understanding the nature of Raga Dvesha. Upadhi Viveka, the third one. Upadhi Viveka is, my body should continue to enjoy forever. After all, the body is a superimposition on the Atman. And therefore I cannot tolerate my becoming old. So aviveka can be of three kinds. Relating to kaya, relating to chitta, and relating to the superimpositions upadhi. So please note that all our discussion so far is not about dharma. We have to be very careful in this analysis. We are not talking about what is right and what is wrong. We are talking about dukkha. The discussion is about dukkha. Sharmishta is a legally wedded wife. Should Yayati have a carnal relationship with him or with her or not is a dharma question. We are not discussing dharma question here. We are discussing dukkha question. This message is beautifully given in the Gita. Check verse number 38 of chapter 18. Vishaya Indriya Samyogad Yat Tat Agre Amrutopamam Pariname Vishamiva Tatsukham Rajasam Smritam. Vishaya Indriya Samyogad. Whenever objects of enjoyment and the sense organs come together, whatever appears to be very pleasant in the beginning, agre amrutopamam yat pariname vishamiva, when it ends as visha, please note that sukha has got dukkha waiting to manifest. So, how does parinama dukkha manifest? Any dukkha is a destruction. So, what is destroyed? 7 things are destroyed in our personality because of this parinama. Number 1, bala, strength. Every dukkha weakens the person unless the person is a viveki. We have seen this in the world all the time. One calamity, man is crushed. Even though similar calamity or worse calamity is happening to a lot of people, my calamity is the most terrible. I cannot bear it. And I become weak. Bala. Second thing is, I will lose vitality. Virya. I lose interest in everything. I withdraw. I shut myself up. Withdraw. Lot of people just disappear into oblivion once a dukkha comes. Haven't we seen that? They don't want to interact with anybody. That's why Krishna says, for a sthita prajna, gurunapi nachi vichalete. However heavy, however difficult is the dukkha, the person is not shaken. Because he is a viveki, he is a sthita prajna. So bala, virya, 2, rupa itself goes because the person cannot even smile. Let apart becoming old or infirm or wrinkled, rupa is gone. Wisdom is gone, prajna, 4th. Intellect is lost, medha is lost. And of course, frittering away of whatever resources, dhana is lost. And worst of all, utsaha, enthusiasm is lost. If viveka is not there, bala, virya, rupa, prajna, medha, dhana, utsaha will all be lost. 7 losses are there. So please note that the emphasis is not to demonize enjoyment. Because Upanishad itself says, Bhunjitaha. Ishavasya Upanishad says, enjoy. Bhunjitaha. But with Viveka. If Viveka is not there, enjoyment goes out of control. What is the meaning of going out of control? I can go to the extent of taking away my own son's youth. Isn't it? I can go to that extent. Let us consider something less dramatic than Yayati's story. I go and stay with my children. This we do, all of us, especially grandparents. How should I conduct myself? If my samskaras and my attitudes of life are imposed upon my children who are married, who have got children, I will be causing dukkha. Not only to them, but also to me. Isn't it? So how should I conduct myself? I must be least demanding. A very touching moment I have to share with you. Suhas is extremely busy. She has got enormous responsibilities at work, especially after the recent promotion as VP. Then she has got 3 children. She has got to do so much, but still she goes so much out of the way to cook something for me because I don't eat non-vegetarian food. And she doesn't either. So about a week back, she didn't have much. She just had one dish and said and apologized. Sorry, Dad, I'm not able to make anything more for you. Then I told her, Suhas, whatever you make is prasada for me. You know what she replied? If you eat, it is Ashirvada for me. Look at the samskara. Look how comfortable I will be when I'm here, and how comfortable she will be when I'm here. What is the parinama? No dukkha. I can be here as long as I want. Even if I'm not here, she will still be thinking good of me. We should be least demanding. We must adjust to their lifestyle. We must help them if possible. We must be non-interfering. We must take care of our own health also. That's also a responsibility. This is how we can avoid taking away their youth. This is the less dramatic thing. If I am very demanding, if I expect from my children for things happen my way, then what I'm doing, technically I'm taking away their youth, isn't it? I'll be no different from Yayati. How much this sutra teaches. So you can see, this is the very heart of Yoga Shastra. And the actual experience is, even when we are enjoying a lot of sukha, a little dukkha will crush us more. Am I right? Little dukkha. You get a little headache, it takes away the whole day. It spoils the whole day. But so many days we have spent without any problem. We have eaten whatever we want, we are digested. Nothing has happened. But one day, a little upset, and that makes us so much dukkha, and that's why dukkha has to be examined. Why do we do that? Because we are so eager to avoid pain. The more and more we try to avoid pain, means the more and more we are thinking about dukkha, the more and more we are creating karmashaya. That is why again they say, you have to let go. Letting go is not indifference. Letting go is a very important strategy in developing insulation against dukkha, present and future. And that can happen only by means of viveka. We'll have to study a little more to understand this sutra. As I said, this is not an easy sutra to understand. But I thought that having an illustrative story will make us go into understand the depth of the message. We'll see more in our next class. Sorry, I took a little more time.